Should we go ahead and hit it?
Yeah, let's get going here. Like I said, if you have a question, please just drop it in the live chat. Remember, it's going to take us 30 to 40 seconds to see it. So if we've moved on, we'll try to come back to it. We've got to find a better live. I don't know, a 40-second delay on a live thing doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, you want who you want to kick it off? You want me to kick it off?
You can. I'll let you go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to switch over to what we're going to talk about to start with is the new features in Lightroom 9.3. It's been out about a month, and I just want to hit them kind of quickly. A really nice one is the export feature. If we go here and we want to export some files, they've actually added this feature a while back, but they've improved it. So I can export multiple file sizes. So I can click here, I can click here. So I have a 3000 pixel, a 4000 pixel JPEG. I can do a Facebook. What they've changed, one thing to notice is once you click one, you can't change it. So make sure if you want to change this, you make all your settings first. But once I select these here and here, if I go to batch export now, it gives me a much better dialog box, which allows me to do some renaming and actually choose a location. So I can send my 4000 pixel JPEGs to a folder. I can send these to a different folder. So if you're, depending on your workflow, you can send thumbnails to one. So this main thing they changed was this dialog box right here. And they've also added a choose parent folder, which I assume means that you can just create subfolders and they all end up in that parent folder. So that's one nice new thing they added to Lightroom 9.3. They've actually made that dialog better and better. I think Randy has an actual full video on how to use that dialog. So
that parent folder is a good, cool feature.
Yeah, that's handy. All right. So the other feature that I wanted to talk about, I tell you what, Randy, let's go back here. Why don't you go and show the Photoshop update that allows the better selection of hair and stuff? Did you have something on that?
Oh, I had this other one that you were talking about, the one in Lightroom.
Yeah, let me do that one. So we're going to flip Randy on.
Okay.
And add his desktop. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. And there's your desktop. Now we add that. Okay, now you're good to go. Cool.
So one of the other things in Lightroom that's brand new, it's kind of fun, is in any of these tools up at the top, we have these selective area selection tools. So you can grab a brush or the other selection tools and drag it and do, for example, let's just for fun here, let's grab this elliptical marquee tool here, and we're going to just make a little oval. We're going to throw it over this guy's shirt. Okay, and what we want to do is just change the color of his shirt and not the other people. So we can grab that oval and throw it on there. And then down below, after we've made that selection, we can come in to this mask and go color mask. And then we can grab this eyedropper tool and click, selects the color. If you hold down the shift key, you can click in 2 or 3 other spots just to make sure you get all that different kind of colors that are different shades or hues of that. And then once we do that, then there's this hue slider up here now that will allow us to just come in and start sliding that. Whoops, I got to invert this. Notice everybody else's shirt's changed. So let's invert that by clicking on that invert box. And we're going to turn this feather off here. Let's turn that feather off. And now we've got that. So now we can kind of go in and kind of tweak that to any color that we want. So, and if you got a little spillover, like we have a little spillover right here, we can always come up and we can grab a brush in this tool and use the erase feature down here, and we can just kind of come in and just slide through there and erase it off of that. Pretty cool. It works pretty simple, but it's pretty effective. So if you got somebody that is misdressed, like if he had this purple shirt on, you can match his shirt to the other kid's shirt. So it's a good feature. I like it.
Cool.
One of the questions that came in, Wayne, was Keith Hill was asking about Instagram stuff. And if it's okay, I want to kind of show just a little bit of that. Is that all right? We do that first?
Yep.
Okay. So, Keith, you were talking about how to use that in Lightroom and in Instagram. And for starters, I'm going to jump over to Safari, kind of to cover this on the front end. You were wanting to know how to add photos while you're on your computer at home, right? So let's just come over here. We're going to go to Instagram. And for those of you that don't know, you can't add anything. You can't add photos while you're on your desktop on your computer. However, in Safari and also in the other ones, if you don't have this develop, which is not always there, if you go to Preferences, over in the Advanced section, down at the very bottom, it says Show Develop menu in the menu bar. So if you have that checked, you'll see this word Develop up here at the top. And you can click on that, and where it says User Agent, you can come over here and you can select whatever you want to use to mock. So we'll just pick a phone, because on a phone you can add pictures, right? And now notice you have the plus icon down here at the bottom, which will allow you to go ahead and use it. You can pick photographs off your desktop anywhere you want. Okay, it's actually really nice because it'll tie into this next little piece that I want to show you in Lightroom. So Keith was asking about how do you get around the problem that Facebook wants to make everything square, and then it does allow you to go out a little bit, but if you have a really long pano, or if you have a tall skinny print, it wants to cut it off. And so here's kind of a workaround. It's kind of it works. I'll just put it that way. It isn't necessarily the best way or the only way, but it works. So it's interesting. If you go to the print module, okay, and if we go to this print module, we pick let's just grab one that's really tall and skinny here. Like this. This is this is too tall and too skinny to go into Instagram. It'll cut it off. But they do have they've posted some of their limitations as they have now, and I want to show you just really quick. So you'll notice that the square photo size that they use is 1080 by 1080. And the landscape photo size is 1080 by 608. And then if you want to do a portrait or a vertical, it's 1080 by 1350. Okay? So these are three options that are available now. And if you'll remember these, when we go into Lightroom, if we go to the print module, and we're going to mock up this as a print, as if we were going to print it somewhere, but rather than send it to the printer, we're going to save it as a JPEG file, print to JPEG file. And what we'll do is we'll make this, for example, this 1080 square one would be a 10.8 by 10.8 paper at 100 dpi. And so when it does it and saves it, it'll save it exactly the right size, 1080 by 1080. Same with the landscape version and the portrait version. So let's come back over here. And let's go ahead and, I've already actually done this before. And so I have all of these already done up for Instagram. So notice that this one right here has a 1080 by 1350. So if we come down to the printer down here, or page setup, sorry, Wayne's picture was in front of it, where it says page setup, we can come up here to this paper size, and we can customize this size to whatever we want. So in this case, we made it 10.8 inches wide, 13.5 inches tall, okay, and with no margins. And then we save that. You can make a new one by clicking on this plus sign and putting in any sizes you want and naming it. So this one is 10.8 by 13.5. And then we can put a tall, skinny picture on there. And up here where we have some of the options, under image settings, you have an option of stroking the border. So if you really want, you can put a nice little border around it. You can make it black, you can make it white. If we wanted it to kind of match what she's wearing, we can always change that by clicking on the black box up here and sliding this up and bringing this. If you click and hold down in here, and you can come over and keep it clicked down, and whatever you hover over will become the color of that stripe. Okay, so now we have kind of a matching little stripe there, if that's what you want to do. Of course, if you don't want to stripe at all, you just turn it off. But in this case, we'll leave it on. And then in the layout, we have no margins, and we've made the cell size ever so slightly smaller than the print so that the borders, when it pops onto Instagram, will show up. Okay. And then under page, if you want, you can add watermarks. So if you wanted to put a watermark on there, you can do that. And you can come down to the print job. And this is where, instead of saying printing it to a printer, you can print it to a JPEG file, so to speak. And if you make the file resolution 100 ppi, and you can do a little bit of sharpening if you want. This is totally up to you. You'll have to experiment with that. And then the JPEG quality is 100. And then this custom file dimension box you want to check. And that will make sure that it's exactly that size, 10.8 by 13.5 at 100 dpi. Calculate it out. It works out just right. Profile sRGB because it's for the web. And then you're just going to say print to file. And when you do that, it's going to say, where do you want to put it? And you're going to save it as, we'll just save this as a test. And it's going to put, for me, I got it set right now. It's going to go to my desktop in a folder called Post. And it does it. It just does that. And then it's ready once you go to Instagram to load up. Those pictures are there and ready to roll. And you can make those presets, by the way. If you get this set up exactly how you want, you can come over and click on this plus sign where the template browser is. Name it, and name it something obvious, like each of these have a name over here, and then create it. So once you've got that created, you can go through, and if, for example, if we have a pano, I can put that, use this horizontal one right here, and I can do this horizontal with a black border. I can do a horizontal that puts my logo on it. I can choose to do that. And then if you have one that's not a full long pano, you can go to this next size, which is 720, and it'll fit it a little bit better. So you can kind of fill it with the image, plus keep that black stripe around there if you want to kind of have that separate out for it. Okay? Does this all make sense? So let's jump really quick, jump over to Safari again. And let's go ahead and add an image here. This is the only other last step I wanted to show you. And if I go to the desktop, I've got Post here. These are the images that I kind of threw in there beforehand. So here's a tall vertical one. And we'll drop this in here. And it looks okay, but it doesn't seem to quite fit right. Okay? So, oh, hang on just a minute. Where did it go? Just a minute. Try again. Try a different one here. Let's try a long, skinny one. Am I not seeing all of this? Oh, there we go. Because we're mimicking the phone, I had to get it shaped like a phone. So notice that this isn't all there, but if I click on this two arrows, it'll actually make it to fit. Now, if it was just thrown in there as a long, skinny one, it wouldn't fill all the way across because a panel is too wide. In this case, this panel would have been too wide. But because we have the white area above and below it, it works out fine. Let me throw a vertical one on here again. So you can see how it cuts it off a little bit, but if you click on that, it'll push it and force it to fit. Okay, then you just go next, put on your caption, put it on a tag, and send it off. So, how is that? That sound like that answers your question, Keith? I hope so. What do you got, Wayne?
All right, so the next feature in Lightroom, let me go here. And I went out earlier, I took these features. So what Lightroom has added is the ability to have ISO-based presets. And so what I did to set it up is I took a series of pictures, and you'll notice this one is at ISO, get my metadata up here, ISO 100. And then I went all the way, I think, to 12,800. And you'll notice if I go into these and zoom in, you can see how bad the noise is. What you can do now is you can create a preset which will automatically adjust for the noise based on the ISO setting. So if I go over to, say, this one here, which is ISO 6400, and then I go ahead and go into my luminance noise reduction, and I pull some noise out. Now I probably can't get all the noise out because this is a RX 100, so it's not the best sensor in the world. So what I do now is I select the first one, which is ISO 100, and I select I select both of them. Was that the one I had? Nope, it's this one. So I select both of those images, and then I go over here to my presets and I add a preset, and I make sure that my noise reduction is checked. Then I say create ISO adaptive preset, and I'll just call that ISO preset and create it. Now what'll happen is if I go to any other image, notice that this one here, I've got noise reduction at 52, and here noise reduction is at 0. If I go to any other image and I apply that preset, you'll notice that it applies noise reduction, but the amount it applies is based on the ISO. So here it only applied 37. And if I go to this one, which is ISO 800, it goes to 26. And if I go to this one, which is ISO 200, it goes to 9. So what you do is you basically set up the extremes, and I actually took a series of pictures to set it up, and it will automatically adjust your noise reduction based on your ISO that your camera used. Now you can go one step further if you want. You can go to your preferences and go into your preset setting, click here to override the master setting, click the camera you want, and then you can go here and you want to do a preset, user presets ISO preset. And once you do that, it will automatically do that and adjust the noise based on the ISO when you import the photographs into your library. So there's a lot of people that use auto ISO to shoot because of certain circumstances, and this really would make it a lot easier to handle the noise. Maybe this was kind of an extreme example, but that's a pretty nice feature that they added. Something you used to be able to do, and then the last one, they somehow killed it. It didn't work anymore. But this is a better interface for it anyway. A couple other things real quick they added in Lightroom. Your cloud storage, which used to be over under this arrow over here, is now got its own little icon in the bar, and you can control your syncing and see your iCloud storage up here. That's new. Notice the tone curve settings at the top. They've added this so it's a little bit easier, a little better icon to see. Plus in this parametric one, they add this color hue. I don't use the tone curve in Lightroom much, but for those that do, this is probably a nicer interface. Let's see, what else did they add? One thing they added, which is very subtle, and I can't really show it here, but they've enhanced the performance of in the grid view. So when you scroll, and we can't do it here because I don't have enough images, but it's much quicker. And one other thing they did, which I can show to enhance performance, when you're in the develop module, notice when I click and make an adjustment, notice that the preview window over to the left doesn't change until I let go. And that actually helps them a lot because they're not trying to update this preview on the side in real time anymore, which helps your sliders. I've had a few people say that the brush tool is more responsive because of that. So that's another nice feature. Okay, so we're both back again. What's next on the agenda here?
Uh, let's look at the let's see. Can you share my screen and I'll jump over here to this kind of cool. Somebody asked about Luminar and the new Luminar 4 kind of features that it has, where it actually can go in and replace the sky pretty automatically. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you can get my screen. There we go. Cool. All right. So yeah, I was going to go, wait, it's not there yet. Okay, we got it. Some things are pretty simple and easy. This would be pretty easy to do. So to use Luminar or any of the external plugins, whenever you right click on the image, you're either going to edit in and select one of them from this list, or Luminar in particular, you have to go down to export and then you can edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments on it right here. So we'll just open up Luminar 4 here real quick. This is one of the new features in Luminar 4 that everybody was all jumping up and down about. I have a little mixed emotion about it, but you know, that's just me. Let's see if it's opening up here. Come on. That's not the image I wanted, but well, we'll just use that image. What the heck? It'll work. So when you have an image open in Luminar coming from Photoshop, this must be one I had open and it won't open a second one up until I close this one. If you click over here on this little artist palette kind of looking thing, this paint palette, the creative section, if you click on that, up at the top it has AI sky replacement. Okay. AI seems to be the big thing now. And it's going to be sad because now whenever we look at pictures, there's going to be 22 different skies in every photograph everybody takes probably, which is kind of sad. But anyway, we can come down and select a sky from here. You can actually also load your own custom skies. So if you've shot clouds, by the way, just go shoot clouds all day long when it's a great cloudy day. But we can come in and pick a sky and it will automatically just drop it in just like that. And it does a pretty good job kind of getting around. This is probably a low res file here, so it's probably going to, come on. But it does sneak in and actually gets inside of that. And you can go through and choose any, you know, we'll pick a different sky. And you want to pay attention to where the light's coming from, right? That's kind of obvious. So you want the light coming from this direction on the clouds as well. And you can come in and you can adjust the positioning of the sky. You can move it up, move it down. You can come in and do advanced settings, like if you need to flip the sky because the light's coming from the wrong direction, you can flip that sky and make it so it looks a little more realistic. It has other things you can put in here. It can put a little bit of haze in, and then you can change the temperature. So this is an early morning, so it's probably on the warm side. Keith Hill knows about this spot. Wayne knows about this spot. It's probably some of the others. I can't remember who else here that's been to Italy with us, but this is the famous 200-year-old oak tree by the farm that we stay at. And then it's just a matter of when you're done with that, it's just a matter of saying apply, and it'll go right back into Photoshop and it'll save it. And it's interesting because it has some other things in here that are interesting. And I know this is Wayne's favorite thing to talk about is the night sky shooting. But you can even put the galaxy in here. And there we go. We have the galaxy at night. Milky Way anywhere you want it. But it's amazing how good it does. If you zoom in, and like give it a second here to kind of catch up, it does a really good job of getting into the little detailed areas, both on this and then like in between branches and trees and stuff. So if you have your own skies and you've shot earlier in the day or an hour later, the sky's better or something, you have a photograph of that sky, you can drop that in. It's a lot easier. So I still don't know. It's still kind of out for me to decide if it's that much better, but it's fast, that's for sure. So anyway, and then it comes, it'll just save it, drop it back in. So you have this guy, and then it'll drop in another one here in a minute. It's uploading. Come on. Okay. Anyway, it'll drop in there. Let's see. One other thing. Hey, Wayne, do you want to talk about PhotoPills at all just for a minute? Somebody did ask about PhotoPills.
Am I there? Hang on. PhotoPills.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a whole 2 hours.
I know. Most of these things are 2 hours.
Well, PhotoPills is really, really powerful.
Yep.
I mainly like it for the augmented reality. So when I'm positioning myself before the sun comes up, I can actually use the phone and I can actually see exactly where the sun's going to come up, and find out if it's going to be, like one good example, I was doing Thor's hammer and I wanted the sun to come up right behind it, and I used that, and my camera was exactly where it needed to be, and 6 feet either way, and I would have had to have moved. So that's my favorite feature, but it's really useful at a lot of things. It's pretty good at helping you figure out like the time of day and a location to shoot a particular thing. I keep looking at this screen over to the right because that's where I have my director for the YouTube Live. But it's really cool because, for example, I took a picture at Scripps Pier where the sun goes down between the pier. That only happens 2 days out of the year, and you can actually use PhotoPills and you can just calculate that and figure out, okay, what day will the sun be directly in line with that pier. So a lot of cool stuff. There's another one that does that as well called Photographer's Ephemeris, which is a little better at that than PhotoPills. But, it's got a lot of information. It's got another thing that's useful is it's got a viewfinder mode where you can put in your cam and your lens, and then you can actually, if you're trying to figure out what lens you're going to need, it'll actually show you as you use AR where the borders would be if you used your 45 or your 85. If you shoot a lot of prime lenses like I do, that's really helpful because I don't know whether to get my 70 out or my 45 out. With the PhotoPills, it's pretty quick just to figure out, okay, that's going to take my 75 or whatever. So I don't know. You use it as well, I assume.
Hey, if you want to switch over, I do. If you want to screen share for a second, this is submitted to us.
Now a little bit, sorry.
And he's the one. Oh, sorry. Keith Buys shot this picture. If you could share my screen for a minute.
There you go.
I assume he used this to know exactly where the moon was going to come up, and he could position himself before the moon actually shows up. So
yeah, that was a good example. You can figure out that really well with PhotoPills.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And what time it will come up above there, because it has a not virtual reality, but an augmented reality kind of look to it as well. So
yeah,
anyway.
you can scroll it so the moon would move, and then you can move back and forth. So you'd be able to figure out within a few feet of where you'd need to be for that shot.
Yep.
With PhotoPills.
Which is the only advantage is if there's 50 people trying to take the same picture from the same spot, like the pier.
Yeah. All right.
All right. I'm going to jump back over to Photoshop just for a sec. I just wanted to show one of the newest things in Photoshop. The new release has a bunch of little things, but nothing super big. But one of the things it did do is it really did improve the select subject part of the option up here. So when you're in Photoshop, if you've got any of the selection tools selected, you'll always see this select and mask option. But if you grab either the magic wand or the object selection tool or the quick selection tool, you have this here subject. You can also to the word select in the menu there too. So, and when you click on it, it really does do a pretty fine job. I mean, notice if I zoom in here, you can kind of see it actually put this selection out on this individual hair here, and if you look at that, that's there's not a lot of contrast or color change between his hair and that background. And once you're there, you can come back in. Let me come back to a tool here. You can come and say select and mask, and you can come in and actually finesse that even more by using some of the tools in here. And so we would use this refine edge brush tool. We could come in and just kind of paint this in here, and it'll actually pick up a few more of the little hairs that need to be picked up. And then you have options in here that are, of course, easy to use. And if you want, you can turn on this little smart radius. It'll actually go out and try to use its artificial intelligence, so to speak, to kind of figure that out even more so. And there's always other little tricks and things, but this is, again, another thing that we could spend several hours on actually teaching this. So, and just one thing to kind of remember is when you go to output, it's always a good idea to output to a layer mask or even a new layer with a layer mask. So that way, when you save it, you have your original still underneath it right here, and then you have this image up here on top of it. So, and then let's just throw a adjustment layer that's a solid color in here. Not that color, that's yucky color, but let's just kind of get a color in here. We can drop this down below here, and you can kind of look at it. It's pretty good. You know, it's blurred kind of where it would be blurred, and it's fairly sharp where it should be sharp. And you could probably finesse it a little bit, but I think it's certainly a lot better than it used to be. Just play with it. It works well. Here's just another kind of candid type of a picture, and if you just grab that tool, click on select subject, it'll go in and do it real fast. Even if you don't do refine edge, we'll just take this the way it is just for a second to show you. We'll let's see. Let's throw a mask on here, and then let's add a solid color layer. Again, it picks a nice choice color there. Grab something a little more realistic. Drop it below. Tiny bit of glow back here, a little bit of that going on. And there are ways to kind of squeeze that in also. So didn't do a super job right here along his ear. But then we can just go back in and clean that up with just painting on the mask itself. So, but it certainly is an improvement over what it's been in the past. And for those of you that have been doing this for a long time, it beats the heck out of the pen tool and all the other little tools we used to have to use to try to do that. So that's pretty much all I have on here, Wayne. There was somebody was asking about how to prepare a panorama. I don't know if it was because it was a panorama or if it was just because preparing an image to print. You want to?
Let me hit one other thing first, because you were asking about the comet.
Oh yes, yeah, that comet question.
Let me.
What's the comet called?
It's called Neowise. Hang on. And it's pretty cool. I hadn't really even heard about it, so I did some research. And Neowise was, there was a Utah State Space Dynamics Lab launched a telescope that was built for NASA in 2009. It was named WISE, which stands for Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. It was designed to detect heat, and I think it's kind of funny, given off by objects in space ranging from minus 330 degrees to 1300 degrees centigrade. I'm not sure how minus 330 degrees is considered heat, but I guess if it's 350 degrees, then 330 would be heat. In 2011, they put into orbit hibernation, but then in 2013, they brought it back online with a new mission to identify and characterize the population of near-Earth objects. And they renamed it to Neowise, and that's where the name comes from this object, or this satellite. And on the 27th of 2020, it discovered a new comet, which was named after the spacecraft that discovered it. So normally when comets are named, they are named after those who discover it. For example, Hale-Bopp back in '97 was named after two astronomers who discovered it basically simultaneously. So that's what the name Neowise, that's where it comes from. It's the brightest comet since Hale-Bopp. I don't think it's as bright as Hale-Bopp, which was very bright. Takes 6,800 years to complete. It's best seen following sunset to the northwest right now. It's below the Big Dipper, and it can also be seen as early before sunrise. Now, one thing that you can, let me just switch this real quick. If you go to a place called stellarium.web-web.org, and that I have a link in the description of this, and you'll see that it's listed here, and you can go down here and you can actually move time to see when you can see it. So you can see in the morning it comes up pretty late, so it's going to disappear, but you can see it probably about right in there. So this lets you calculate on the, at about 10:20 it'll be right about there. You can see here's the Big Dipper, and if I turn this, you'll see here's north and here's west. So if you're in Salt Lake City and Sandy, where I live, that's going to be out looking kind of toward the Great Salt Lake. They say to the naked eye it'll be a little bit like a blurry star, but if you put a telephoto lens on or binoculars, it should be pretty clear. I think if you want to photograph it, I think pretty much any nightscape technique will work. This picture that I showed you a second ago, I'm guessing that what he did was, I'm guessing that this is a double shot, because I think this is like a 15-second exposure, and then he's overlaid that with a regular exposure that's shot for nightscape. Here's another pretty cool picture of it. I thought this was a pretty good picture. As far as where to see it, I think you're going to have to get west of Salt Lake a little bit, or south, or up in the mountains, somewhere where you get away from the light pollution. I haven't tried to see it yet, but I'm considering going out to the desert, to the salt flats, and maybe trying to get a shot of it, because it's pretty cool comet. I think it'll only be visible through about the 25th to the 26th. That might be just to the naked eye. You might be able to see it later than that if you're using nightscape photography. It's basically moving out of the solar system now, so it's getting dimmer. I think optimally you want to try to photograph it before Sunday, from what I read. But I think if you get out somewhere really dark and using nightscape, you'll probably be able to see it for a month or two. I don't know. So anyway, that's...
Hey, Wayne.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. I'm not sure how long ago this came in, but Keith Hill was saying he wanted to ask if your phone is set to true north.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know. What I do know is that PhotoPills allows you to calibrate it. So if you go to a location, you can, and the sun's up, like if you're planning. So what I do a lot of times is the day before a shoot, I'll go scout the location in the daytime, and I'll take out the phone and I'll calibrate my PhotoPills. Basically, you just move it till the sun overlays it. And then once I do that, when I'm there later, then I can do it. But I didn't realize you could set your phone to true north or magnetic north. I don't know. I'll have to research that, Keith. So anyway, comets are pretty cool, pretty rare. Might be worth trying to get out there and shoot. I'm not as Randy mentioned, I'm not a big nightscape guy. I kind of feel that it's a little, I don't know, I guess artificial, because you can't see it with your own eye. I love looking at them. I think they're beautiful. And I'm pretty sure that's just an excuse because I don't want to get up and go that late at night to go shoot it. But I think this is worth it. Comets are really cool looking. And this other shot I showed, I just love the tail on that one. That's really awesome. Like I said, I'm pretty sure to do that shot, though, he's had to do two shots, overlaid the nightscape, and then somehow he's isolated the comet out of it. Really cool shot. Anyway.
Cool.
Oh, I didn't have my screen up, so they don't know what I was talking about. Lovely. That's the shot I was talking about right there. Sorry about that. It's hard to be the director and the participant at the same time. All right.
Okay.
Anything else on the agenda?
I don't see it on there. We do have a couple of images people submitted, and we just kind of want to bring them up. And oh, that's nice. Let's go out of this module. Somebody thought I was putting my own name on their picture. That would not be good. So we just have a handful here that's people sent in, and let's see if we can. Let me just pull them all up on here and see if can you see these, Wayne?
Yep, everything's working.
Okay. All right, good. So we've looked at this one here with the buildings and stuff. I love it. It does take a lot of thought and process to figure all of this out and to get the exposure right with the buildings and stuff. I think a simple little fix for that to kind of make it just one little notch better would be to straighten the buildings out. And of course, there's some pretty easy tools in Lightroom to do that. Should we take a second and actually do that, Wayne? How do I do that? I'll do that really quick here.
Yeah, do that.
Okay, so let's come back in here into Lightroom. Let's get my whole thing all put back together here. Let's get in the develop module. And all we need to do is come down here to the transform section on the right side of the develop module. And you could try some of these automatic ones in here, but I'll be honest, the easiest way for me is to grab this little hash mark. It looks like a tic-tac-toe thing. And you can draw up to 4 lines. You can draw 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. And all you need to do is hover your mouse over, and it gives you like a little magnifying glass almost, so you can get it right on the edge. So we'll click there. We're just going to come down here and get this right on the edge again down here. And then we'll come over here and we'll click on this one. This looks like a good, fairly straight line. We know it should be pretty straight. And that'll pop these up and straighten it out quite a bit. Let's move this one. I'm going to move this one over here on this edge just to kind of see if... Get that right there. It's a small thing, but boy, it makes a lot of difference. It just takes that distraction out, I think. Okay, let's jump back to these 4 images. Anything you want to talk about on any of these, Wayne?
Well, you mentioned how to prepare a panel for printing.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what they're asking about. It's really not any different than any other image, unless there's a particular challenge they've had. I mean, most of my work are panels. I would say, what do you say, 80% of my stuff are panels? Maybe 56, 70%.
Yeah, at least.
And I really don't do anything different. I do have a printer that can handle it no problem. So...
well, what if you're sending this off and you wanted a 40-inch by, this would be what, maybe 12 by 40? I don't know what the dimension is, but it would certainly not fit into your standard 20 by 24 size a lab would offer to print.
Yeah, so some labs, they're gonna print you a bigger print and cut it down. Some labs won't do it at all. And I'd like over at Pixels, we'll print any size you want. We just kind of do a square inch price. So that is a little bit of a challenge. Typically, a lot of labs will have panel sizes available, but probably not that long and skinny. So most labs can handle that, though. I don't think it's I think most labs can handle it. You just have to kind of see what their options are.
Yeah, I know I had one that was 10 by 40, and so I just went in and into Photoshop and I made 2 layers of the same one, put them one on top of each other, so it became a 20 by 40, which was a standard size. Since they were going to charge me for a 20 by 40 anyway, I actually got 2 images for the same price of one.
That would make sense.
So they didn't cut it, but they mounted it for me, and then all I had to do was cut it. So I know that we do that sometimes.
Well, that's one advantage of the print module, and Lightroom allows you to print to a file. And that's one advantage. That allows you to gang prints up or add borders or do things that you can't do with just a normal export from that. So,
Yep.
so anyway, I don't know if you have, I've got you
I
back on
love.
the screen now. I don't know if you have any other comments on the other two. That one of the bird is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
That's a,
it is. So is this moose one. I love the
yeah, I love
light
the
coming
moose
from the
one.
back of the moose.
That's a great
Separation.
angle. That's a great angle of that moose. You know, all I would do on that one, I might vignette the corners a tiny, tiny bit, just kind of let them fade
Yeah.
out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Take them.
the bird one, I might try cropping a little bit, so there's more room, a little more room in front of it, and there's all that space behind the bird. To me, doesn't add anything. And so if we cropped it a little tighter, maybe even into a square, that might give it a little bit more impact. Try that in a square. Yeah. Yeah. See, to me, that's got a little more impact.
Yeah.
That's maybe too tight, but you could go to a rectangle and you could actually take a little off the top too, a tiny bit.
Yeah. Here's a fun option. It's kind of cool now in Photoshop. We can go ahead and edit in Photoshop. I love this new way of doing this. So here we are in Photoshop. I'm gonna shrink it down just a little bit by clicking on this plus, this magnifying tool, and holding down the Option key or Alt key. So we got a little space around here, and if you did want to keep it square, we could come in and we could even kind of fudge it up a little bit or down like this. And as long as you have this depressed, it's a hard thing to tell that that's not, that is. That means when we say OK, it's going to do a content aware fill. And if it isn't too much, this might be a little much here on the top for sure, but 95% of the time you're amazed by the result, and it's doing a bunch of math right now.
Yeah, a little complicated there.
Yeah, complicated. That was a pretty good sized file too. So
you need my Mac Pro to crank on it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's got a problem right here.
That's not too bad.
No, it's not. I mean, that would be pretty easy to come in and just kind of
fix that corner.
Come in, fix that corner, and that probably isn't a super big deal to come in and do that with multiple different tools here to
throw a tiny vignette on it. Oh, well, you're in Photoshop now though, so just do a do a camera raw filter on it.
Yeah, I can just use the burn tool, or I could throw another layer on here.
Or camera raw filter.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's just do that. Let's throw filter, camera raw.
And just add a little vignette. Very subtle. That's by the way, that's got a whole new interface as well. Camera raw did in this latest update. So down.
I like what I love what he called it here. Coming in hot.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good name. Yeah. So down under effects there.
It's right here. Can I just do a radial filter?
Yeah, just do I just do a normal. Under. Where you at? I'm trying to see where you're at here.
Well, I'm in the radial filter right now.
Oh no, I would just go to effects. Don't. Yeah.
Oh, down here. Okay. Get out of here.
Yeah, and just add a. Yeah. Down toward the bottom there, effects. Open that up.
Yep. Oh, okay.
And then just add a little vignette. Just a little dark, just a tiny darkener. Yeah. Ooh. That's a cool shot.
Notice what it did. It came back into Lightroom uncropped.
Yeah, because when you go to the camera off filter, it's showing you everything.
Yeah.
But then if you say okay, that's a good. I'm a really lousy wildlife photographer. I always like to see when guys do good stuff like
Yeah,
that.
this is great. Well done.
All right.
Well, I think that's pretty much sums up what we were going to do tonight.
Okay, so if you, so this, like I said, this will be posted on my YouTube channel, which you're on right now, and you can watch it later. Any comments, please feel free to drop comments down below that. We're going to work on making this kind of a monthly thing. It's kind of fun to do. I'm an old retired guy, and I need something to do with my time. And if you have any comments about our presentation, we'll try to find a better tool. But it was a lot of fun to do. So anyway, hey, thanks for tuning
Great.
in and watching. See you
Great.
next month.
Thanks, Wayne. See you guys.
See you, Randy.
Keep shooting.